Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode. And we are in our testing period. So just give me a few seconds and I shall be with you. Yes, I'm here. Hi. Okay. So we have just a few minutes to go, and let me reduce this volume so we can. I should reduce that volume. Okay, I think I will just leave it as it is. For some reason, it is refusing to become less. But let me check and see that everything is fine. Okay, sorry, you're having a very, very loud music, I know. And I do wonder why that happened, but okay. Oh, Professor Joss is already there. Hello and good morning, Dr. Joss. Let me go to social. Yes. Okay. Nice, you could join us, and very on time as usual. We have 2 minutes to go. The most interesting thing is going live on Facebook, which for some reason does not send me a notice that I'm going live. So that is one problem with it. If any of you is on Facebook, please say hi so we know that everything is fine. Yes, Dr. Anuradha, hello. Sometimes I must say this waiting for the last few seconds feel like, that okay, we are about to start. It gives you that little bit of tension that somehow still has not gone away even after 1.5 years, more than 1.5 years actually. I think it's now 1 year, 8 months roughly. So yes. And we are almost there. Actually, we already are there, so we should move on. It is 11 o'clock. Welcome to the official opening of the session. And when it comes to the research, especially the latest research as far as oral cancer goes, or probably any cancer goes, one of the most important things is all the molecular research that is being done. And we know that we are constantly looking for biomarkers for oral cancer and for the OPMDs. But and it seems like it should be easy. There's technology, you get it, you do it. But I had this conversation with Dr. Madhura, who's with us today, and it is not that easy. Obviously, nothing is ever that easy. So Today, she is here with us to share her experiences and some challenges that she has met while conducting studies, molecular studies, so that those others who want to start can start a little step ahead and not have to think about all of those individual situations and problems. And a little introduction to her. I have known her for many years, although she is not directly my student, but she studied in an institution I taught after she had left. But there is somehow that bond that has occurred. I don't know how, but it has occurred. And it is always fun. And I have been watching her career, and she's doing very well. She has been on the channel before too for a discussion that we had about the oh dear, what's the word? About the curriculum. Yes. Okay, so she was there with us. She had some very interesting thoughts on it, and today she's going to share her thoughts on this topic. She is reader, Department of Oral Pathology and Microbiology, RV Dental College. So, welcome, Madhura. And with that, I'm going to just sort of give you the floor to take it.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Very good morning, everyone. Hope I'm audible to all. Season's greetings to all of you. At the outset, I would like to thank immensely Dr. Mandana ma'am for giving me an opportunity to share my experiences in this platform and also for giving me a direction for this presentation. Let's move on. At this session, I shall be sharing the multifaceted challenges for a researcher during the analysis of molecular biomarkers in oral squamous cell carcinoma. With a brief background about the concept of biomarker and the various biomarkers of oral squamous cell carcinoma, which have been studied and are still being studied. And the main crux of the presentation would be on the challenges at various stages of research. The objectives of this presentation would be to shed light on various challenges at different stages of research for a researcher, and also to identify possible solutions for the same. What is a biomarker? It is a biological molecule, a defined characteristic that is measured as an indicator of normal biological process, pathogenic process, or response to an exposure or intervention. When we hear to the term biomarker, I'm sure we all have read about different types of biomarkers, which could be diagnostic, monitoring, response type, prognostic, and we have predictive type of biomarkers. Of course, all these different types of biomarkers would be used to assess various aspects of the disease process. When it comes to the analysis of these molecular biomarkers in oral cancer, especially oral squamous cell carcinoma, there are numerous molecular biomarkers which are going to play in this and which have been studied, and also they're being researched. So in this slide, you all can see a schematic of some of the molecules involved in some critical pathways in oral squamous cell carcinoma. When it comes to the analysis of biomarkers or discovery of these biomarkers, especially with the developing high throughput technology, we have different types of patient sample which are going to be studied, especially for analysis of biomarkers. It could be the salivary sample, the blood sample, or the tissue sample. From any of these samples, we can extract the nucleic acids or the proteins. When we extract the nucleic acids, say DNA or RNA, we subject them to different methods of study, like it could be the hybridization method or it could be the sequencing. Then we generate the profile, which could be the genome profile or methylation profile or transcription profile. And when we are studying the proteins extracted from the patient sample, we are going to again subject these proteins to different methods like mass spectrometry or any other, and then we are going to get the profiling of these proteins. So when we do the data integration and then system analysis, we generate the models. So that could be belonging to the diagnostic group or assessment group or monitor group. Well, let us move on with what are the various challenges at different stages of research during the analysis of the biomarkers. Let us start with the very first basic thing. For example, when the research team thinks about the formulation of the research problem or what should be the study objectives, or when we talk about the hypothesis or assumptions, how do we draft them? The challenges or the questions which come to us would be which molecular biomarker to study. There are numerous biomarkers. How do we actually narrow down? Because we cannot study all the biomarkers in view of the resources, the time, the budget. There are so many aspects to be considered. How to establish useful relationship among variables. For example, when we are looking at site-specific carcinoma, the carcinoma of the buccal mucosa versus carcinoma of the floor of the mouth or tongue. So we would actually like to know the biological behavior, or when we are assessing a particular molecule in carcinoma of the tongue or floor of the mouth, how do we actually say that this particular biomarker analysis will help us in predicting the prognosis or response to treatment? Then which biomarker analysis will be useful for translational research? So whatever we are doing as a team, how are we going to translate that or make it useful for the patients? Because the ultimate goal of every research process is to improve the patient care. Do we have solutions for this? Yes. Very thorough review of the literature. When I speak about the review of literature, of course, I think all of us during the process of the study, for something or the other, we do actually review the literature, the scientific literature. But when we want to analyze or when we want to carry out a molecular biomarker analysis in oral squamous cell carcinoma, reviewing the literature is something like, it is similar to diving into the ocean. Fine, it is too vast, voluminous. And as and when we actually start reviewing the literature, we will know the difficulties, and then at some point we are lost. So how to get the direction? because there are so many studies which have been done and so much of research being done and also in progress. It is something like, we will be like totally lost at some point of time unless and until we get some direction when we discuss with the experts, subject experts. Adding to this, I would like to bring your attention to another concept called bioinformatics, which is going to make use of the skills of computer science, chemistry, then it's involved in the mathematical analysis. It's going to combine the engineering skills, statistics, biology, biochemistry, all this. That is bioinformatics. What is this bioinformatics? The application of tools of computation and analysis to the capture and interpretation of biological data. I can say the advent of bioinformatics and its greater use has really revolutionized the field of research, not only for oral cancer, but in general for any type of cancer. How does this bioinformatics help us? What is its relation when we talk about the analysis of biomarkers, especially in oral squamous cell carcinoma? As we know, there are multiple molecules and also the pathways which are aberrant or which are disturbed, the dysregulated pathways and molecules, what we see in oral squamous cell carcinoma. The bioinformatics analysis or this in silico analysis would help us and give us the information about the expression pattern of the various genes. Which genes are upregulated, which genes are downregulated. With the help of various databases, we will be able to actually check and also see what is the regulation pattern of the various genes, the tumor suppressors or the oncogenes. Okay, are we able to map some of these networks? Can we generate protein-protein networks? Can we generate some of the heat maps? Okay, so there is a lot of scope when it comes to the application of bioinformatics when we are actually carrying out a molecular biomarker analysis in oral squamous cell carcinoma, and when we have to check which molecule or which biomarker or set of biomarkers that our research team has to pick up and then study. Just one small example for this. This is a nice research paper which is published very recently in 2022, wherein the investigators have tried to identify this AUNIP as a candidate diagnostic and prognostic biomarker for oral squamous cell carcinoma. So I would like to show you the sample images of the enrichment pathways or analysis. How does it look? So they have done the bioinformatics analysis in this to check the expression of the relevant genes and to know their regulation. All right. Let's get going. What is the next challenge? What type of study to conduct? Identifying a suitable study design, that is a solution for it. There are different types of research designs. It could be an observational research design or an interventional type, a descriptive type, a case control research design, prospective type, a retrospective type, or it could be a combinatorial approach. So depending upon the suitability or what exactly we would like to look at or check, we can identify a suitable study design. After identifying the study design, what next? The research team has to specify the population. So what is the challenge here? Recruitment of the study subjects. So if it is a case control study, we would like to have the study subjects who are showing the disease and who are not showing the disease. That is healthy volunteers as control. So individuals with and without disease. Then subjects with and without exposure to risk factor. For example, when we are looking at the study subjects, wherein we have oral carcinoma patients on one hand and healthy volunteers, we would like to check and also assess a set of molecular biomarkers in individuals who are exhibiting oral carcinoma, and they also actually give the history of association with some type of environmental risk factor in the form of tobacco, alcohol, or any other exposure to radiation. And we have another group, that is control group, wherein again we are assessing the biomarkers, and there is no exposure to risk factor in that particular group. Then we have another scenario wherein we can see the subjects who have underwent some type of treatment. For example, oral carcinoma patients wherein surgical intervention has been done, or those where surgery and adjuvant therapy like chemotherapy or radiation therapy has been carried out. So we have that particular group of study subjects wherein we can say when we are recruiting the study subjects, it's with and without prior treatment. Or we want to study these biomarkers in primary tumors before the patient has undergone any treatment. Or we want to check in a recurrent patient or recurrent disease. Okay, then another important challenge when we are actually recruiting the study subjects, are we able to get the required number of the study subjects? That is estimated sample size. So that whatever results that we get out of this particular research, are we able to generalize it to the society or that particular disease? So what could be the solution for this? Defining inclusion and exclusion criteria for the study. That's very, very important. So the research team has to be very clear. Okay, so if I've defined inclusion criteria, of course, we are going to see that we include the individuals showing so and so, and we are not going to include them if they're not showing this or if they're showing something else. It is so very important to define the inclusion and exclusion criteria for the study. At the same time, throughout the study, that is, as long as we actually recruit the study subjects, we need to abide by them. That's very important. Next, how to collect data from study subjects? Very simple. We need to design a tool for data collection by following standard guidelines. But when we say that, the tool has to be designed in such a way that it has to follow the standard recommended guidelines accepted across the globe. So that is where is the challenge. It has to be appropriately designed. Next, what are the other challenges? Any research for that matter is with a lot of ethical issues. Then what are the various challenges when it comes to ethical considerations? When we are studying a biomarker, on patient sample. So definitely the ethical issues are to be addressed. Approval from concerned authority, then to take written informed consent from the patients. If you're doing a prospective study, that's something which is a mandate. Then approval from institutional review board of the parent institution or research setup. What are the solutions for this? Preparation of the consent form following the standard guidelines. For example, we can follow the guidelines given by World Health Organization when we are preparing the consent form. Then submission of the research proposal in the prescribed format, and that we need to submit to the IRB for clearance. Okay, so we have got the ethical clearance for the proposal. Next, what next? Data collection. So here also we have few challenges. What are the various sources of data? Do we have a real challenge in this when it comes to data collection? Yes. As long as we have good number of study subjects in the parent institution, it is quite convenient for the research team to recruit the study subjects abiding by the inclusion and exclusion criteria. But due to various reasons, if the number of study subjects become inadequate in the parent institution, then the researcher or the research team has to think of recruiting the study subjects from other centers. It could be a government hospital or a private or corporate hospital or a health professional institution. Sometimes, like, the researcher may ask even their friends, like, who are working in their own private dental clinics. So when it comes to all these different setup, these individual setup will have their own reservations and then policies when it comes to the providing the patient material or patient samples or data to a researcher coming from another center. Okay, so considering the confidentiality of the patient's data or the material, so government hospital may not agree. They will have their reservations. Then when it comes to the private hospital or corporate setup especially, as we all know, if it is a self-funded study or a research, then cost is a major factor. Then even other health professional institutions, when we ask actually, when we request or when we ask for the additional study samples, they will have their reservations in providing the samples or patient data, and they'll have their institutional policies. So these are the different areas when it comes to data collection. The challenges are here. Is there any solution for this? Few which I could think of. Pursue the data collection in the parent institution where the researcher is working. Although it might take some time or maybe a good chunk of time, but still it's nice actually to pursue. Having good interdepartmental rapport with having good rapport with the professional colleagues who are working in other departments, that would really help us, and then they would actually pull in the cases for the research. If possible, we can even collaborate with other research center or healthcare centers with similar areas of interest, so that we are able to get the required number of study samples for the research. All right. So with the difficulty now we have accumulated the study samples. What next? We need to conduct the experiment. How to do the test? Okay. So it is not that like, we just give the sample to a laboratory and then they are going to give us the results. No, we are not happy with that. We want to run the experiment and we want to be there like, throughout. So there are many challenges when it comes to running the experiment or carrying out a test, especially the molecular biology test. And the possible solutions which we can think of would be to follow the manufacturer's protocol for various molecular biology tests. Then when we are conducting the experiment, of course, usually we do the pilot to check like, whether we are able to get the yield or results, and should we change the protocol when we run the main experiment. Conducting pilot is also very important. When we do the experiments, it is wiser to do it in duplicates or triplicates to ensure reproducibility. And also taking assistance from technical experts, especially when it comes to designing of the primers or probes for RT-PCR or fluorescence in situ hybridization or any other technique, even for sequencing when we run these tests. And when we have identified a particular biomarker to be studied in carcinoma samples, it's always better when we do it in the team. What is the next step? So after conducting the experiment, analysis and interpretation of the data, understanding the statistical tests and their interpretation. This is something I feel it's a common factor for any researcher. So what are the possible solutions for this? Background reading about the statistical tests with relevance to the various research designs, and also solving some of the problems. For example, hypothesis testing through statistical tests. When we do solve the problem, we are more confident that yes, we are able to understand and interpret it very well. And of course, needless to say, we have to have detailed discussions with the biostatistician who is helping the research team. All right, we have conducted the study and the team has really done well. What next? We want to disseminate the findings or results of this research. What is the translational value of the research? How do we actually disseminate the knowledge that is generated out of the research? The solutions for this challenge would be presentation at national or international forum. That is, we are exchanging the information, what we have actually generated through our research at a wider forum. And then having patents and then publications. This is something which is very important. So whatever we have actually generated through our research, so we actually can file the patent, and also we need to publish them in good impact factor journals. Next, I'll tell you about one basic fundamental thing, like, before we start with any type of research. How do we support our research? What are the various financial implications? This is something which has to be thought before we actually start the process of research, right? Here are some of the solutions. Writing research proposals to various government and non-governmental funding agencies. And after that, it's very important that we pursue it. Okay? So this is one very important step. But it is easy and simple to say that we can write research proposals to various funding agencies, but it takes a lot of time, energy, and then the effort to write a proposal and then submit to the funding agency. And on top of that, we need to pursue. Getting sponsors is another solution. Then, if there is any scope of technology transfer, we can even collaborate with the industry. And if nothing works, for a passionate researcher or the passionate research team, the last option is self-funding. If you're able to do that, we are able to actually proceed with the research process. Fine. So I've shared many challenges and also the possible solutions with you all. Considering the various stages of research involving the analysis of molecular biomarkers in oral squamous cell carcinoma. This is a quick summary of what has been checked so far. It includes both the challenge as well as a solution which is within that. Meticulous reviewing of literature along with the discussion happening with the subject experts is something which is very, very important. Then use of bioinformatics when we have to select a group of molecular biomarkers or which biomarker has to be checked and studied. Then selection of the appropriate research design, specifying the population, taking care of ethical issues, data collection with a standard tool, conducting the experiment following manufacturer's protocol, and meticulous experimentation, wherein all the guidelines are taken care, and also running in duplicates or triplicates to ensure reproducibility, accurate analysis and interpretation of the data, translation of the research in the form of presentation, patents, and publications, and of course, to take care of financial aspects as well. Challenges are the part and parcel of any research process. Patience, passion, and perseverance will lead us towards productive outcome with improved patient care. What is so very important? We should never ever give up. And we need to try until we succeed. Thank you all for your kind and patient hearing. Over to you, Mandana ma'am.
Thank you, Madhura. That was a nice presentation. So, do we have any questions? We will wait for a minute till we see that. And I'm sorry, in the beginning you were trying to talk to me, but I was not in the scene, so I could not speak back. Everything was fine. Otherwise, I would have stopped you. Okay. So, while we give everyone some time to set up their questions, let me share this. Right. Some and we can see if we have any questions. Let me have a look. Right, this is a good point. Professor Hilly has said the value we should be pursuing is the translational value. That is so very true, because whatever research we do is, of course, just lab work if it's not translated into practice. So, anything else? No, that's about it. Okay, Madhura, tell me what has been the greatest. Now, you spoke a lot about the research, the research, the planning of the research, uh, but the research methodology as a whole. But what about the greatest challenge you have had in the lab or while actually conducting your experiments? Practical problems.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, what I have experienced is collection of the samples, especially the study samples or recruitment of the study subjects, considering the present situation, that is a pandemic. So we are not still fully out of it. So that has actually made a big impact. So recruitment of the study subjects is one where I had faced a lot of challenges. And of course, in conducting the experiment, we have to be very meticulous, especially when it comes to the molecular biology technique. We have to ensure that there is no contamination, and whatever the nucleic acid that we extract from the patient sample, either DNA or RNA, uh, it has to be done in a very meticulous manner, following the protocol or guidelines given by the manufacturer when we are using the kits, and even transport of the sample or carrying of the sample, and the necessary tests when we do. So there are a lot of challenges involved when we run a molecular biology test.
That's true. Contamination, of course, is always a problem with any test, I guess. But
Yes.
what about situations that are that are not uniform? Like, say, for example, we have extreme temperatures, we have extreme humidity sometime, particular to us in India and maybe also to parts of Africa for that matter. So, do those things matter? Will they have an impact?
Uh, yes, ma'am. It depends upon the stability of the biomarker that we are selecting for the study. So when we are looking at a biomarker, so depending on its stability, so we want actually that marker to be stable at least for some time. Otherwise, if it is too unstable, and then we won't be able to actually check the expression of it. So selection of the biomarker is something which is very important, so that we are able to study that, and irrespective of these tough situations, in extreme hot or cold situation, or when we actually carry the sample in a separate container, maintaining the temperature, that also matters. And another important consideration is the type of sample. Yeah, whether it is saliva, the blood or serum, or the tissue sample. So when it comes to tissue sample, again, there are two scenarios. Are we looking at the fresh tissue, or are we running the experiment with the help of FFPE blocks, that is formalin fixed paraffin embedded tissue blocks? Because certain experiments do mandate the fresh tissue, which is very, very difficult, because from OT we need to get it, we have to ensure that it is put in the transport medium, and it should not be kept in formalin, and it should not be dried also. So getting the fresh tissue is another major challenge if the experiment demands the fresh tissue.
That is true. That also again affects your availability of samples. That is definitely
Yes.
there. Yes, that is a Okay, we don't have any more questions or anything else here. So I shall say thank you. And first, let me say thank you to you. And here's your certificate. Thank you so much for the presentation, for the time, and for sharing your experiences. And
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak at this platform. I'm
you're
sure
most
I'm
welcome.
learning a lot from this platform.
Thank you. I hope that is something we can keep up with and it will be of use to many. Yes. So, with that, I guess we should just say bye. Hello, everybody, and thank you for attending and being with us. We had today with us, of course, we had Professor Joss, we had Dr. Garima, Dr. Manusmriti, Dr. Adesina, Dr. Pushpanjali, and I think on Facebook we had Dr. Shams, Dr. Shilpa, Dr. Harsha, Dr. Lipi, and Dr. Faraz Mohammed. Wonderful. Yes. Thank you all for being with us and stay in touch. And definitely, we will see you next week. Have fun. Till then, see you. Bye. Bye.